our promise, if you continue to join those calls, you will definitely apply, those skills that you learn. You will get hired within 3 to 6 months. Especially in the IT sector, there is tons of demand, tons of opportunities. It's just a matter of how to reach those opportunities, how to present yourself as the best candidate. So our goal is, getting 1,000+ people hired in 2021. It's an aggressive target. It's tough, but we trust that you will be one of those 1,000, and you will help us getting more people to join this goal and get them hired as well. The YouTube channel that we have has all the recordings, lots of great insights. I really, really recommend that you go and visit the recordings if this is your first time to join us. Tons of insights that would definitely help boost your interviews, boost your job search ability. So our ask, again, if you got hired, please let us know. It's good to celebrate with you and cheer for you as well. Join and share this with others. Anyone who really want to find jobs, please spread the word. This is all free and it's open for everybody. Although we're focusing in the IT sector, but lots of those insights can be applied to other sectors as well. So coming up, this Thursday we have how to succeed as an immigrant. This is a very, very important topic by one of our greatest coaches in Vancouver. He's going to be speaking about that. He's already doing those sessions in the university as well within Vancouver. Next Sunday, we'll take a break for the long weekend, and then we'll resume again on the Thursday after. So today's topic, the future of work, it's going to be 1 hour full of excitement, lots of insights, nuggets. Dr. Sherif Aly is a chair and professor of computer science and engineering at the American University in Cairo, with notable industrial and governmental experience. He worked as a visiting professor at the University of Ottawa, as well as at Carleton University. He also worked as senior scientist of innovation and entrepreneurship, a senior member of the technical staff of General Dynamics, a research scientist at Telcordia Technologies in New Jersey, and a visiting scientist at the National Institute of Standards and Technology in Maryland, and lots of other things. Dr. Sherif is, again, very, very insightful and has lots of experience, whether in the computer science field or the entrepreneurship. And he's a Canadian. He's just, working to help everybody succeed. So with that, I would hand it over to you, Sherif. Thank you, and the floor is yours if you want to share your screen. You're mute, Sherif.
Thank you very much, Ahmed.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for the very kind introduction. And the first thing I actually want to do is just get a quick hint of who the audience are. So if I can please, just go around, for a couple of seconds each, just please let me know your name, just a sentence or two about you, so that at least we can orient the discussion today towards something that is more suited for the audience. Can I do that, Ahmed?
Yes, sure. Yeah. So if everybody is comfortable, please type your name and get maybe a role or anything about yourself that you want to share.
Yeah.
In the chat, that would be great.
If you want to go ahead and just type that maybe in chat, or just mention something, unmute, perfectly fine. Just go ahead and unmute and say something about you. Pablo, do you want to start maybe?
Sure. Well, my name is Paulo. I'm currently living in Chile, but I'm moving to Canada on August.
Okay.
And my background is in IT, service management, for about 8 years of experience.
Great. Tom Zaya. Excuse me if I pronounced him a little bit wrong. Tom?
No, it's pretty good. So my name is Thomas. I'm currently living in Halifax, Canada.
Okay.
My area is more bank field, but
okay.
I'm here to learn. So.
Great. Walid Salama. Walid Salama.
Yeah, so he put in the chat project manager.
Okay, and Amir. We'll try to go a little bit faster. Amir. Ahmed Sherbini, Ahmed Aizaz. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
This is Ahmed Sherbini.
Okay.
I'm a HR consultant working in Saudi Arabia and GCC.
Okay, great, wonderful. So as not to take much time, at least I get some insight into the audience and from chat and so on. Let me start off beyond the professional aspect and let me know a little bit just about the personal side of me. I was one person who actually left my family at the age of 15 by choice, with mutual agreement, with my family to actually pursue an education in the US. With not too much money, first time to actually travel that far of a distance and, trying to basically settle in, make a living, get a decent education. And, my journey of moving around, didn't stop. My, going back and forth between different countries, every time starting a new life, trying to settle in, find new jobs. At some point in time, traveling to the US one more time to pursue my grad studies and then having to maybe work 5 different jobs to make a living while I'm pursuing my graduate studies. That's a little bit about me. So finding a job is, as you all know, is a very, very difficult thing to worry about, let me say. It's a very worrying thing, but very interestingly, with the right tools in place, with the right guidance, clicking the right buttons, your search for a job can dramatically accelerate. Right. So let me start off by basically, I just prepared, some slides, some visuals to guide the conversation. Then we're going to have basically an open discussion. So, what are some of the things that really guide us, or challenge us as we're moving to a new country, immigrating to a different place, worrying about, kids settling in a good neighborhood to live in, good schools for the kids, making a decent living, maybe even comparable to where you are currently working. So many of us, have probably at some point in time have decided to basically leave a very good lifestyle in certain areas around the world to try to settle in a new, land of opportunity, in a new land where, one can go ahead and simply, find, a better quality of life for the kids, for the family, for whatever reasons, and so on and so forth. So finding jobs is a very, very tricky business, and especially, investing in the future, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Now, like, undergraduate education, basically, you're spending 3, 4, 5 years of your life trying to build, some capacity, trying to prove to someone else that you have enough credentials for you to be hired. But you know what, 3, 4, 5 years down the road is quite a lot. You're studying today for a future job that you probably have no idea what the job would actually look like. So, ultimately you're studying engineering, you're trying to predict the future, trying to predict where may things be in 2, 3 years time. Where am I going to be competitive? Where is my skill set going to be of value? Is the job market maybe somewhere in the US similar to the job market in Canada? Definitely not. It's a very, very different job market, very different needs, very different, cultures. They look the same, they're not necessarily the same, and so on. Very different value system, and so on and so forth. So ultimately moving to a new place, is full of very, 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 hard decisions that one has to make. So, what kind of directions do I have to invest in to be able to land a good job in a place like Canada, or maybe even the United States, or wherever you're actually heading towards? Now, let me just start off by saying there are many different enablers to trying to land a good job in the future. One of the first things, in my opinion, I'm just speaking my mind out, this is purely my own personal experience about this, is that number one, connections in the place that you're going to land in is extremely, extremely important. Connections as in, having family in the place. If you don't have family, having some friends, first degree friends, second degree friends, friends of friends, friends of friends of friends, and so on, like we see on, LinkedIn, connections of this kind. If you don't have any of those, or you want to supplement those with a fascinating, organization like this one, for example, that can help you basically and guide you and give you opportunities to basically, connect with different people. job employers and so on. So ultimately, one of the most important things that I basically found, going to a new place is that knowing people, whether directly at the place that you're going into or indirectly in a way or another, or using some institutional or organizational support through an organization that believes in helping people, is a very, very important thing to do. So why are connections important? You know what? At some point in time, I read this statistic in Canada, and that approximately, maybe 70% of the jobs are actually unannounced jobs, which basically means, you're searching for jobs on LinkedIn, you're searching for jobs on, on Indeed, on Monster, and so on. And then, this is probably only 30% of the total jobs that are basically announced for. So where are the other jobs? Sometimes people want to hire others, not by announcing on LinkedIn, but, basically by word of mouth. Sometimes you have to basically hire fast. Sometimes it's very rare to find a skill set, on job search sites. And, just simply reaching out to people, reaching out to social networks and so on, is probably the better way to hire people. So, ultimately, like I said, one of the very first things that I found to be very important in a place are basically connections. Now, beyond connections, what do you have to do? There are certain things about you that are fascinating, that are excellent, that are wonderful. You could be really good at what you do, but you know what? At the end of the day, you really have to demonstrate this in a way or another. How do you demonstrate your competence? How do you tell someone else? How do you catch somebody's attention and basically say, you know what, I'm good at this. I'm good at what I do. Even though I may not have, quote unquote, the Canadian experience, and I'll tell you about the Canadian experience. Having, a proven skill set, that people can trust is very important. So how do I tell people that I'm good? So one way of telling people that I'm good is, the de facto, basic, straightforward way, of simply getting a university degree. But you know what? That's not how we learn these days. That's, having a university degree was probably something that was great, 30, 40 years ago. But now, no. People have online profiles. They have, Gits that are available online. They have references available and recommendations available on LinkedIn. They have endorsements for their skill sets. It's how they've interacted on social media, what kind of posts they've been putting, their mindset. You know what? You're being profiled just by providing, a LinkedIn account to search for a job. Some people ask for, hey, what is your LinkedIn handle? I want to look up to see what you've been doing over the past 4 or 5 years. Not in terms of what you claim, but in terms of how you interact with people, how you comment with other people, how you talk to other people. So one classical way, insufficient way these days is basically a university degree. What is another proven way? A huge portfolio of actual hands-on projects that you've really worked on in the past. Projects that people can attest to, projects that people can stand up to you, and simply say, yeah, that person did a really good job. And the first time I met Ahmed was repetitively on a plane. He always likes to stand, beside the restroom on the plane through whole distance, whole way. He doesn't like to sit on the chair. That's a little secret about Ahmed, right? So, very visible guy. And this is where we started, connecting. This is my first interaction with Ahmed. We started connecting. We started basically, talking to each other. We found some mutual friends. He told me who he is. I told him who I am. We probably implicitly tried to help each other at some point in time finding jobs, not necessarily in an explicit way. He knows very well how important it is to connect with other people. So what's another way of proving your credentials? Another way of proving your credentials, is basically, to do let me call them the steroids of professionalism. You basically want to, do the quick wins, the certifications, as I call them. So certifications, not necessarily master's programs, are those kinds of things that can, you can invest in for a short span of time. They give you a little nitro, they give you a little boost, right? But you know what? They're a stamp on your career. They say, hey, I am PMP. I'm a professional of project management. I'm a professional of program management. I'm a professional in, Cisco networking. I'm a professional in human resources or in, accounting, for tax purposes and so on and so forth. So many of those certificates are basically those kinds of things that you can invest in over a short duration of time, but they kind of take you a long way. They're like those little awards that you put on your chest. You're walking around, you're bragging and saying, this is what I have. Now, as I, my wife and I and family actually moved, back in August to Cairo for family reasons. I helped her rewrite her CV to match. She was very successful in Canada, working for the, Bank of Canada, Export Development Canada, coaching executives and so on. And you know what? She's still trying to find a job here. So the first things I actually did, it's a different ecosystem. The skill set may not apply. First thing I did, I told her what, Sarah, the first thing you really need to do is ditch your academic degrees. And I put it, with her towards the extreme end of her resume. And I just put all the certifications, all the hands-on stuff that she worked on right there at the beginning of her resume. Right? This is how you catch people's attention. So what else? One of the things that I really found was, and this is something beautiful in Canada, my history with Canada goes a long way back, as my parents actually were doing their graduate studies in Calgary back in the late 60s, right? And, ultimately, even though, I didn't live, in Canada as a child, but I grew up with an implicit Canadian culture of respect, a Canadian culture of, that I never understood, until I actually moved to Canada. A culture of respect, a culture of inclusion, a culture of diversity, things that I basically grew up with. And you know what? Your sensitivity and understanding to the context of the Canadian workplace will take you a very long way. What do you mean? Are you respectful of other people? Are you respectful of how people are different? People are different. We deal with people, in a very different, different workplace environments, but people are intrinsically different. We don't judge people by the way they look. We judge them, by the way they perform. We judge them, by the way they perform good and so on. But we never, judge people by, what is your accent like? Why are you dressing this way? Why do you have so many tattoos? It doesn't matter. Right? See, these things don't really matter. So your respect to the culture, is very, very important. And you know what? Some lovely thing about Canada is, Canada grows on you. Yeah. So, you can be your true self in Canada. You too, not just respecting others, but you too. One of the most accommodating and humane societies on the face of the planet. So like I tell, a lot of people, if humanity was 100, pieces, probably 95 of those exist in Canada.
Yes, true.
Right? So basically understanding, that you need to respect other people's cultures, gender respect, diversity of, anything, looks, directions, orientation, anything, is a matter of respect.
If I may chime in here, Sherif, just regarding to the certifications, I just, remember, when I was with Nokia, they were almost going into a recession and layoffs. And one thing that really saved me is I did my PMP certificate. Mm-hmm. I was almost, one of the few people who had my PMP certificate back in 2011 that survived the recession because of that certification. So to your point, certifications is a key in the future of work, and it definitely help everybody, get that boost as you mentioned. So thank you for chiming in here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, I cut you short. Go ahead.
No, I just want to, ask Mike to chime in here if you want to add anything from recruitment side. He's been seeing lots of resumes.
Absolutely. I think the more certification you get, the better it is. It just maybe they may not be working at that level yet, but if they're going to be going to that level in terms of the skill set, the managers or the hiring managers, the HR will take that into consideration and say, you know what, we're not doing it now, but he's got the certification. maybe 6 months or a year will be working in that area, it's beneficial. It will help, absolutely. And we recommend that they do try and get their certification, because the more certification you get, especially in IT, in technology, the better it is. You know, it really will take you a lot further than somebody without any certification. So,
right.
Very good points, Sherif.
Great. So one last thing before I proceed in my presentation is, it's never a bad thing to just let other people know who you are. So what does that mean? So, you know, it's okay to put, you know, on a job application that you're a visible minority. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's okay to let people know. You know, people want to sometimes target people, for certain demographics in workplace environments. This could be an advantage to you. You know, at some point in time, speaking different languages, having different cultural backgrounds, working for different organizations that need your language, that need, you know, your cultural background, that need, believe it or not, to sometimes satisfy quotas, you know, for different, inclusions and diversities and so on. So that's a good thing to always put forth, and so on and so forth. So, you know, so career planning is definitely a good thing. So before you actually jump into making a huge investment in changing a career, like what? You know, somebody could be saying, you know, I want to invest, you know, 3 years of my life, you know, trying to learn something new. Well, it's worthwhile, actually, you know, like I said, you know, worthwhile trying to, you know, kind of connect with people and ask them, you know, where do you think I could find a job, you know, if I invest or make this investment, you know, in 3 years' time. You know, you're fishing. So you have to use the different kinds of baits that, you know, eventually will allow different kinds of fish to hook onto the, you know, to the reel, and so on and so forth. So what do people say about career planning, right? And Mike, I'm sorry if I'm intruding in your territory here, but, you know.
No, you're doing great. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what do different people say? So I just decided to put, you know, a couple of, you know, perspectives of what people, you know, say about career planning. And the morale is not really to go through them, but to see some of the commonalities that basically show up in how different people perceive the way you should plan for your career. You know, one of them is learning about your own self, right? See, what is it about you that makes you important? What are your values? What is your education? What is your interest? What is your experience? What are your, you know, strengths and weaknesses? What are your skills, and so on and so forth? Where do you want to see yourself? You know, what do you want to see yourself achieving in the next 4 or 5 years for you and your family? You know, and so on and so forth. So learning about you and having some self-confidence that you can make this happen, even though it can take some time to actually find the good job that you want, you know, never give up. You know, so never give up, you know, simply applying to a place once and twice and 3 times, or different places and so on, and, you know, being rejected. You know, it could happen for so many different kinds of reasons. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're bad. It doesn't necessarily mean that your skill set is bad. Sometimes, you know, people are looking for, quote unquote, the Canadian experience. What's so important and unique, you know, about the Canadian experience? So I said something about Canada a while ago. And you know what, if you're going to be someone working at a bank, you know, and and basically, you know, a lady shows up to you, you're a teller, you know, and then you basically ask her, you know, what's your religion? You know, that's not very sensitive, you know. You know, where do you come from? Where is your country of origin? You insist on that. You know, that's not very, you know, sensitive to the culture in many ways. You know, that is an aspect of the Canadian experience. How do you, you know, and that's something that, you know, spending, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 months in Canada, you know, I bet you'll basically, you know, really start understanding what the Canadian experience is about, and so on. So these are some of the things that people talk about. So like I said, but more importantly, you know, assessing yourself, knowing you, finding different career paths, talking to different people, using the services of an organization like this one, make a decision. So be decisive, move on and say, you know, that's my primary plan and that's my backup plan. This is what I would love to sincerely do. And if it doesn't work out, this is my plan B. This is how I'm going to, you know, basically, this is how I'm going to meet ends with regards to my family and so on and so forth. So you got to have, not just a primary plan, but a backup plan, a B and a C and so on, and so forth. Take an action to do it. And then ultimately, what do you mean by manage your career? Yeah, it's very important, but that's something I'll leave Mike to maybe discuss, at some point in time, if he's kind enough to discuss it later on, what it means to actually manage your career. This is one of the things one of the slides that I like about trying to pinpoint, your future. Like I said, it's about your qualification, the support network, having defining goals. Where do you see yourself, in 4 or 5 years' time? Being organized is very important. A checklist for what? What do you mean a checklist? This very basic tool of productivity. A checklist of what? Even if I'm applying to jobs, a checklist of jobs that I want to apply to per sector, a checklist for kinds of jobs that I want to apply to per geographic location, a checklist for jobs that are, will make me live well with my family, and other jobs that will simply let me put some food on the table, for example. What are my strengths and weaknesses? So that's, one of the better, depictions that I basically saw. So back to, where, I've been doing a lot of my career. And, I'm chairing a department of computer science and engineering now, at the American University in Cairo. It's a U.S. offshore university. It's been around for the past 100 years. And it's basically the Ivy League university around this region, even though it may not be very famous around the world, but it's really Ivy League around this area of the world. So the idea is, factually, I see where and what people do by the time they graduate. I've been seeing this, for a notable amount of time. And, I've basically been, seeing where they land. What is it that makes people have truly fascinating jobs? To make a long story short, when you take a look at the job market in Canada, look at the job market, like I said, in the US, they're not necessarily the same. And I'll show you an example. But, this is the time definitely for computing jobs. Not undermining the need for other jobs, but let me just focus on why I believe computing is the big deal now. So, first of all, computing innovations are all over the news. They're all over the world. I mean, I see students with no work permits, with no other citizenships of the places that they're going to work for, simply getting a good education and a good basic experience in computing. They land really nice jobs. There is no shortage, in my personal opinion, of jobs in the IT domain. Let me not say IT domain, in the computing domain. IT is just one of 5 basic branches of computing, not necessarily distinguishable from one another, but information technology, information systems, computer science, computer engineering, software engineering. The job market does not necessarily make a great distinction between the 5 different disciplines, except in very specialized areas. So there is no shortage, in my opinion, of jobs. And the nice thing about it, it can give you tons and loads of flexibility. You know why? Because, one of the barriers for you to find a good job is that, could be maybe that, your significant other found a great job, let's say in Ottawa, found a great job in Toronto. And you know what? You really don't want to move. You don't want to, separate from your family. You're stuck to finding another job in Ottawa. It may not be the best job suited for you. But with, computing jobs, the sky is the limit as pertains to working remotely, like many other jobs these days. But for computing in specific, working remotely, is a bread and butter of the business. We do this all the time. So what's into computing jobs? It's not just about development. Talk about developing games, mobile applications, automating processes, robotic process automation. You want to basically automate a process, and how do you automate this, right? Machine learning, very big deal. Everybody's doing analytics, robotics, basically security and cybersecurity, big deal. How do we secure the infrastructure and so on and so forth? Lots of startups, around the world happening. So there are tons of jobs available in the computing domain. Starting from things like I said, web development, network administration, working as an AI expert, video game design, video game development, a data scientist, which is a tripartite relationship between computing, statistics, and and some domain knowledge. So if you have a very strong statistical knowledge, maybe you want to augment that with some computing knowledge. And then you can be on your path towards being a nice and a good actually performing data scientist and so on. So how does this, stand out throughout the world? So look at Glassdoor's, but this is for the US, and I'm going to show you Canada in a little bit. Look at the best jobs in the United States for 2021. Now, enterprise architect is a computing job. Data scientist, software engineer, DevOps, computing, information security, cloud, Scrum, not necessarily in computing alone, but Scrum could go beyond, over and beyond machine learning, technical project manager, some technicality, not necessarily in computing also, but you can still find your way. Mobile, UX, automation, front end data analysis, and so on. These are the some of the best jobs really in in the US that people can actually be working for. These are, the best jobs, like I said, from a different perspective, these are the technical jobs in specific that show up here up front, from a different perspective. Dentist shows up obviously in the middle and so on, but look at the amount of computing related jobs that show up in a survey like this. Even for 2020, there is no shortage of, computing related jobs, from front to end. Front end development, Java, data scientist, DevOps again, data engineering, software engineering, and so on, just goes on. Of course, others show up in the middle like nursing and so on. Now, those jobs may not necessarily be the best and highest in terms of pay, in terms of the highest paying jobs, but these are median base salaries. Now, base salaries, if you're working for a nice place, you're probably going to see some incentives showing up. You're probably going to see that if you're really good at this, that you're beyond the median because of the standard deviation inherent in in those kinds of jobs. So maybe you can see the salary pumped up by quite a bit, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, these are the best jobs. So in Canada, yeah.
If you don't mind, just because some of the folks here are not all in IT.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure we're not recommending that everybody go into computing or IT, but
Yeah.
I think your message here is mixing your profession with some computing skills that would help them get, better visibility. Is that what you're trying to say? Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. So I'm just giving, an example of one of the sectors that may be lucrative enough for people to, seek jobs in at some point in time.
Yeah.
Just
you have a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
You have a question, Thomas, or
No. Just to add, even though I'm from banking, nowadays it's very important to know about IT and those things, because right now mobile thing it's so going up, so important, even in the bank and everything. And I believe COVID accelerated all of this, and so even though I'm not from the IT field, I think it's very important to know. And
excellent, yeah. So I'll just try to sum up so as to open the floor to a discussion. You don't want to rely only on one source of statistics, but like I said, your connections. Look at Stats Canada, talk to people, look at different news outlets, what they're talking about, what kind of jobs people are looking for, and more importantly, just look around and see where is your community succeeding in. Where are your contacts succeeding in, which areas they're succeeding in, which areas they find of notable potential, and so on. I think this is even more important, than simply looking at, statistics like this that tell you which sectors to basically try to look for jobs in. So it goes back again to your connections. Very important to basically capitalize on your connections and so on. So I know we don't have a lot of time, but I'd like to basically just open the floor to an informal discussion. And like I said, these are just all my personal opinions, my gut feelings about things, and we'll just take it on from there. So let me stop here and just open the floor to Q&A.
Thank you, Sherif. Thank you so much. And one thing maybe if you could maybe share the light on is the dealing with bots, dealing with robots, dealing with software. I think this is one thing that is happening. By the time maybe in 1 or 2 years we will be having those things naturally. We already have the smartphone today that is almost handling all our life. Whether we think about it or we don't think about it, but it's already doing it. Like your calendar, your alarms, your appointments, everything is in your smartphone. So that's just a small robot is in your hand. So if you want to share some light on that, Sherif, and then we can ask folks to chime in.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned something very interesting, and you've actually pointed my attention to you can still be at home and generating revenue.
Yes.
Not working for someone, but just working for your own self. So, when there are multiple platforms that could help people do some e-commerce, like Kijiji, like other platforms that could help you basically buy and sell cars if you're into the business. If you're into buying products from, let's say, just because I, talk to you first, Pablo, maybe from Chile and, selling it in Canada, to your social network and so on, these are the kinds of things that you could still be doing at home. And we see this a lot, I personally seen this a lot with families who may not have been very fortunate finding jobs for whatever reason. And that's one thing that, people could be doing on the side also. So with regards to, the usability of those platforms, the mobile platforms, it's a very, very strong edge to basically make use of that. And, ultimately even developing mobile apps, tutoring people, there are tons of things you can do away from the, formal jobs until you can find one.
Thank you, Sherif. So yeah, if anyone wants to chime in and ask questions, please go ahead.
Well, I have a question regarding career planning and the flexibility that you should have when you land in Canada, for instance. I mean, how can you plan your next steps in your career if you're landing in Canada and you don't know yet where are you gonna really go through in terms of what would be your next job, your 5-year or long-term prospects? I mean, how do you manage that flexibility and at the same time have a career plan?
Is this a question to me or to Ahmed?
Anyone, Sherif, if you want to give us some advice there, Mike.
If you want, I can take this one, Sherif.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Or Mike, do you want to? Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
No, it doesn't make a difference. It's just like what Ahmed always preaches is just if you can go to a place where there's a, maybe some more Brazilian people or there's a bigger community where there's an IT sector is get to know people, join groups, get involved, participate, and find a place where you may be a little more comfortable settling in. Like you're not going to go way up north. You're not going to go up north to work there. So in a community, Toronto, Ottawa, where there's probably more diversity in terms of your original nationality, whatever it is, Lebanese, Egyptian, Portuguese, whatever. So if you want to chime in on that, Ahmed.
Yeah. So so networking definitely is a key, as Sherif mentioned several times, and I know you saw in previous sessions. Networking give you like 80% of the boost. If you know the right person who can put your resume in front of the hiring manager, this is like 80% work already done. And instead of going through the machines, ATS, and being unselected or deselected, getting to know people is the best approach. The second thing is, as Sherif mentioned in some of his slides, assessing yourself. You need to be clear what you want to target for and what skills you have for that job and what you don't have. So then you work on it. In our Thursday session, Lionel was speaking about, the cultural difference, think that, in Egypt, for example, back home, we focus more on the technical skills and we not really focus on the soft skills. In Canada, it's 50-50. So if you have more soft skills, you will be called out. If you're able to work without getting orders, do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps that you can, do your job. This is not something that happens here in Canada. They give you the job and you figure it out. They always say, you figure it out, do it. Just do it. Does that answer your question, Pablo?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I just add something? So
Yeah,
I think
just raise his hand first, if you don't mind.
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Sherif. If you unmute yourself first.
Okay, are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to join you. And it was very, what Sherif was saying at the beginning, I felt myself in, because everything he was saying, I have been going through this life cycle almost 2 years back now. I moved to Canada like since 2016, then it was like back and forth, and I settled down in July 2019. My question mainly to make it short and quick, how guys we can assess this Canadian experience. I've been working here in Canada for 1 year, and in the same company I was working in DXC technology, which was HPE, for almost 5 years, since 2015. And I moved between Saudi to Canada within the company. And due to the COVID and what's going on, I got a layoff November last year. And I've been working and trying to find another opportunity. But so far, going through different interviews, and I heard it like a couple of times that we understand that you have only 1 year in Canada experience, and that's not like sufficient for the Canadian experience. So I can assess it, or how we can assess, or how we can say, yeah, you have the Canadian experience or you do not have. Because based on my experience, since you worked here in Canada, either it's like 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, 3 years, so you got already the Canadian experience. And the good thing as well that I heard you, Ahmed, at the beginning, that you were working for Alcatel-Lucent, which became Nokia.
Yeah.
So and I was part as well of Alcatel-Lucent, which became Nokia, but in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Reach out to me then.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll see what I can do. It depending on what your skill set is, I'll see what we can do. But just to kind of add to that, but you've worked for a legitimate company overseas and transferred here. So it should be taken into consideration. It's not like you're working for a company ABC in I don't know, in Lebanon or something that's not big, or where I'm from. You work for a legitimate company, like when you mentioned Alcatel-Lucent, Nokia, when you mentioned HP and DXC, I think you said, or DCX or whatever.
DXC, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a legitimate company, so that should be taken into consideration. If somebody has worked for Telecom China and is a network engineer and starts working in Canada, his experience with that company should be taken into consideration, because it's a large company and it's world recognized. So sometimes it's more difficult when they're smaller companies, but when it's a big one like that, I don't know, I don't think you should have a problem. But you know what? Connect with me afterwards.
Okay,
Yeah, so
much appreciated. Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Sherif Mike is a recruiter, and he's one of the supporters to this community. He's helping everybody as much as he can, whatever comes in mind. So connect with him on LinkedIn and maybe send him your resume offline.
Perfect. Yeah.
To your question about the Canadian experience, Sherif, do you want to chime in here, or should I?
Yeah. I mean, I want to say something about this. Sometimes the Canadian experience is just a nice way of people telling you, I'm sorry, you don't fit the job. Or, it's not always valid, right? So the idea is, if you're told, in my opinion, face to face, you don't have the Canadian experience, one way out of this is to kind of laugh it out and, challenge it in a very nice way. I'm probably, I have probably the Canadian experience as better as anyone. Try me out.
Can I correct something here?
Yeah.
Okay. So both interviewer their feedback, or it was not a feedback, it was like a comment. And by the way, I did not get the final decision yet in both applications, so still in process. And one of them I reached out that I was meeting already the head of the delivery for North America, US and Canada. Until now, I did not get the feedback, and I'm waiting for the feedback. And the other one as well, I had like a couple of interviews, and I'm still waiting by end of next week for their feedback. So, but their point, it was like a point they were mentioning that one of them, I'm quite sure that he said, I wanna make sure that you have the Canadian experience and you know how to deal with the executives in and the C-level. I understand that you have been doing that before, but I want to make sure that you would be able to do it right now in Canada. So that was exactly the point raised. However, they didn't say, no, you're not fitting for this position, or we will proceed with another candidates.
Yeah. So Sherif, I guess, if you join our last Thursday call, and I really recommend that you check it in YouTube. It's about the cultural difference, and how we as immigrants think about the way we handle jobs in Canada is different than back home, like in the Middle East or Africa. It's totally different. So the soft skills is very important. What you're the person that you just mentioned, I think what he's worried about is just your soft skills. It's not about the Canadian experience. Just how you present yourself. How do you speak about projects? How do you speak about colleagues? How do you speak about himself as a manager? Like, are you maybe gonna put him, throw him under the bus if he did a mistake, or are you gonna really make sure that he's in a position to work as a team? So again, those things are out of the Canadian experience. It's just how you position yourself, how do you manage ambiguity, how you manage conflicts in the workforce. Back home, we're a little bit fast in communication, and sometimes this fast in communication leads to some aggressiveness. We consider ourselves like we know everything, and this is how it's done. I'm expert, so this becomes like strong, and this does not help here in Canada. So here you need to open for everybody to speak, and you need to listen carefully, and active listening is a key skill here in Canada. If you are able to listen and get to address their concerns in the way that they are looking for it. So again, his concern maybe is not about your technical experience. It's about how you present yourself, how do you really work with executives, and how do you position yourself. Does that answer your question? I want to move to other folks.
Can I pitch in something, Ahmed, for a minute?
Go ahead, Sherif. Yeah. Okay.
So Sherif, can I I'd like to mention something about the Canadian experience. I'll give you an example, right? So when my son was in elementary school, and I got a letter from the school basically saying, this was a couple of years back, we know some families in your neighborhood have been going through some tough times. If you're one of those families, make sure you let us know, and we will guarantee your son will contribute to every single activity at school without paying a single dollar for that, right? That's part of the experience. This makes you feel included, right? That's not something that I see a lot. I've lived in the US. That's not something that you generally see in the US. My kid's school had a role called grandma. Right, grandma is that lady at school that my kid would go to in case he forgot his lunch. Just open the cupboard. Here, go ahead, take all the food you need. Right, that is part of the Canadian experience. What may not necessarily be a Canadian experience is, like, for example, in some cultures, it may be very okay for people to guide others through doors and pathways by maybe putting their hands around other people's waist, for example. That's perfectly fine. That's not necessarily where people's comfort zone may be, in North America in general, right? So these are just examples. When my pharmacist friends were taking their licensure, they moved from Saudi Arabia, from other places. They were taking their licensure. One of their examinations was basically, how do you deal with people? And one of the first things that they had to deal with, is, when someone comes up to complain to you, you got to be empathetic first. I hear you. I understand your problem. I know you're going through some pain, and then, we can talk business later. That's part of the Canadian experience, in my opinion. Right. So, at the end of the day, you can build Canadian experience by doing, on the side volunteer work at a school over a weekend. You can build Canadian experience, by go to a food bank and do some volunteering, for a couple of days, and not only that, just the last thing to mention, is in a job interview, sometimes spilling out your Canadian experience implicitly is much better than someone profiling you and telling you, sorry, you don't have the Canadian experience. So as you're talking to people, you may want to let them know, what, I was volunteering for a food bank. I went to a weekend school, and, I dealt with small kids playing music at their free time, taught them, some saxophone or something. That's part of the Canadian experience, Sherif, right? It's not just, technical job stuff.
Thank you, Sherif. I want to move to Thomas. You had a question? Or Walid, maybe?
Sorry, it
Yes,
was
Ahmed.
Yeah, go ahead, Thomas. Sorry.
It's more to complement everything everyone is saying. Like I know Mike said, it's very important to come to Canada and like find your group, or maybe Brazilian people from Africa or whatever. But I think it's maybe for Canadian experience, it's more important to go, like as Sherif was saying, go and do volunteer, and maybe without anyone from your community, because then you won't be attached to the things you do at home. You're gonna do the way people do here. So I think you need to balance it. It's good to have your community from back home, but it's very important to grow, like to integrate the community here, to Canadian community. So
And
just to add.
yeah, one thing, you gotta be very careful also. There are certain showstoppers depending on which place you're gonna settle in. So for example, if you're settling in a place like Ottawa, if you ever want to reach anything high up in a government job or a government university and so on, French is a showstopper. I've seen it in job interviews. Someone who knows some French is probably preferred over someone much more technically competent who don't know French. So there are certain showstoppers that are very sensitive to the areas that you're actually going to reside at, and you got to be careful about those. Ask your community. Or ask Ahmed and Mike.
Yeah, good point, Sherif. And Ottawa, there's two showstoppers in Ottawa: the security clearance and the French. Those are the main two things. So if you ever want to live in Ottawa, but good point, Sherif. Thank you. Did that help, Thomas? Huh? Okay. Fadi, go ahead, Fadi.
Yeah, hi. Good morning to everyone. I'm new to Canada here. I just, let's say, I came from the Gulf area in Middle East since like 5 months already. To be honest, till now I did not start searching for a job. I'm still trying to, as you mentioned, try to get some work through the friends. I have all my life worked in the Microsoft infrastructure products from back in 2000, working for enterprise companies, but like ADNOC, which is the oil company in UAE, or Aramex, which is the delivery company worldwide. But here, still, I don't know, have that fear of, I'm listening to a lot of people saying that, well, jobs in Canada are really few here compared to the Gulf. You will have to wait a lot of time, try multiple times till someone actually would look to hire you. So to be honest, that backed me off a little bit, because with an experience of 20 years and enterprise companies, then you don't find jobs here. And sometimes I feel that the move that I did to Canada might not be the right decision. You know, it's like, so it's a fear growing inside of me. That's why I was assured by your talks and words.
Yeah, thank you, Fadi. So just to make sure I understand your question, so some people are giving you negative energy, are giving you negative thoughts, and this is affecting your mindset.
Absolutely.
So, Sherif, do you want to chime in here, or should I?
Yeah. So I was actually relating to Fadi. You know what, Fadi? It's a big package. You've lived in the Gulf, right? It's money is a factor, but the quality of life, the way your children will be brought, the way you'll be happy or less happy. So sometimes many times you can experience and be ready to accept a setback, a little setback in your income, and then you can work on correcting that later on. So once you settle in and make the horizontal moves with, higher grade pays, so it's okay to start with. It's actually, I haven't moved to a single place where I wasn't ready to accept a setback in my income because I've been moving for other reasons. So that's something that maybe you want to program yourself to accept, and then, it generally will get better.
To be honest, from all the negative feedback, I'm already programmed. I have no problem accepting. Now, my expectations, those guys managed my expectations so well that now finding a job is the maximum that I actually look for. Not that the income, that's like maybe in the first month. Now it is, will I be able to find a job here?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you will.
Yeah. So Fadi, I was just like you, exactly like you. I came from Saudi, 6 years back, and I face the same challenges. So what I recommend, if you keep joining us these calls, you will learn a lot, and connect with me offline. I could also help you. Anyone who's giving you negative energy, just put them away. You don't need those negative energy at this stage. You need only positive energy. Try to avoid those mindset because those will affect you. You put you down, and you need energy. So anyone who give you negative energy, just put them aside.
Inshallah, I will do that. Yesterday I sent you a LinkedIn invitation and you accepted it.
I'm happy to work with you offline. Thank you, Ben. Take care.
Thank
That's
Okay,
good.
so we want to get another final question before we take the selfie and give back the time for Sunday. So any final question, anyone? Ahmed Ali, I saw you. Maybe, do you want to chime in here?
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Ahmed, for this efforts to help all of us getting jobs. I'm working already. I want to share some part of my experience. I came here in 2016. I'm like you, Fadi. I came from ADNOC, the sister company of ADCO, or ADNOC. I came from ADCO, the sister company of ADNOC.
Cool.
I'm from Akrir, which is
I'm my friend there. Okay.
You're further.
One of the things I noticed here in Canada, especially if you are targeting managerial positions, I was working as an IT manager, and I did a co-op, which is free, in Ontario Pension Board. And one of the comments after I insist on my manager, like there was a job as an IT project manager, and she didn't involve me in this role. So after my insist, why, she told me I cannot put someone in front of the senior managers who cannot speak English very well. So language, I think one of the barriers, especially if we are targeting managerial positions that you have to deal with C-level management. Our English is good in communication, especially if you are talking about technical. I think we are all excellent in technical language. But
yes.
But for example, like one of the comments in the meeting, for example, they start the meeting with breaking the ice. So they start the meeting with jokes, with talking about life things. most of the time I don't understand what they are talking about, because the language they use is not the language we know. It's the day-to-day language, the native English speaker language, which is different than our language. And this is, I think, one of the barrier if you are targeting managerial positions. So maybe it's better to start with something technical and try to like grow step by step.
Yeah. So if I understand your question again, Ahmed, just the Canadian experience or the language barrier is important for you to grow here in Canada, and that's absolutely correct. It's something that you need to work on. In terms of learning those codes that you don't understand. Like I faced the same challenge when I started here. Like they always say herd of the cat. What's herd of the cat? I don't really understand what's herd of the cat. And then by the time I understood what does it mean in my language, and then other quotes like that they keep telling. The more you listen, the more you put yourself with Canadians, the more you speak with them and mingle, then your dictionary will increase. Then you will be able to speak in front of executives. Then you will be able to present in front of those guys. So again, this takes some time, because again, our comfort zone is just technical. Just do the job, get it done, and that's it. You don't care about how they feel, how they react. Here, people is number one. You need to care about humans. This is very, very crucial here in Canada. So I hope that answered your question. I see another hand raising. Ahmed, do you want to chime in here? So I want to just wrap it up in the next 3-4 minutes. Do you want to?
Yeah, I will be very quick. So thank you, Sherif, for the amazing lecture and an education session. It is amazing. And thank you, Mike, also for your insight, always priceless. For just, for someone who came to Canada in 1997, we all went through the same dilemma. We all went the same challenge. We all went through the same problems. High-level advice. Number one, surround yourself with successful people. As Ahmed Zayed said, if anybody's putting you down, delete him from your life for now. Still be your friend, but just distance him for now. You don't need that. Searching for a job is a full-time job, and there is a lot of learning curve. So my personal advice to you guys is turn off Al Jazeera, turn off Melody, turn off Arabiya, okay, and turn on CBC, turn on CTV. That will improve the language. The stories that you're hearing in the boardroom, you start getting big on it, from the news, from the media, from what's happening in Canada, so that at least you will be able easily link what they are saying, okay, to the current events. Yes, you're still going to be losing some of the event that happened 20 years ago, or movies that were there 20 years ago, but that will be less by less time. Okay, and again, thousands of people comes to Canada every year. Okay, and thousands of people are successful, and thousands of people are finding jobs. You are one of these thousands, and you are one of the best of these thousands. Put that in your head. Okay, it is just a small learning curve. It's going to be just like a challenge that you have to cross, like so many challenges that you went through in your life before. Don't give up. It will happen. It might not happen, as Sherif said, and Ahmed said, at your level that you were to, but it will happen. Just give it some time and some energy and some work and some dedication. You will be there. Barakallah fikum.
Thank you, Ahmed. This is a good way to end it up. But Sherif, I want to give you, maybe if you have any final thoughts before we do the selfie together.
Absolutely. I mean, you guys have picked a fascinating and lovely place to settle in, sincerely. And I'm sure everyone here is going to make it big, at some point in time. Don't compare, please, with, what your lifestyle was elsewhere. It's not a very straightforward formula to compare tit-to-tat like that. But you know what? I think you're in the right place. Just enjoy living in Canada. Enjoy seeing your kids grow to something beautiful, something fascinating, and enjoy your quality of life.
Thank you, Sherif.
Thank you, Sherif.
Thanks, everybody, for joining this today.